Welcome to Discovery Watch with John Kaiser.
I'm your host, Jim Goddard. Welcome back to the show, John.
Jim, pleasure to be back on the show.
John, New Legacy has tripled since being bashed down to just 3 cents in mid-March. Are there any new developments?
Jim, there are no new major fundamental developments on the discovery front area, but a number of important things have happened. Back in March, when the whole market was melting down, New Legacy got hammered all the way down to 3 cents. And there were a couple reasons for that. One was in late October, they had done a private placement of 100 million units at 7.5 cents. And that came free trading in late February. And in the midst of all the anxiety about what was going on with the general market, some people may have decided to clip the warrant and flip the stock regardless of what they got. Because a key issue is that they are working on a plan of operations for the Rift anticline play in Nevada. And that's a long, tedious process. It's going to cost them $500,000 U.S., and all of a sudden, as the COVID-19 alarm was surging, some investors may have thought, what if the BLM is incapable of getting anything done because of the lockdown response, and they don't get this permit by the end of summer, allowing them to do a drill program in the last quarter of this year. Maybe it's going to be 2021 before they get around to drilling this target. So some people may have said, well, I've got a 3-year warrant at 12 cents. I think I'll just keep the warrant and dump it. Now, since then, the stock has recovered, along with all resource juniors, which have very interesting projects. Most are back to where they started. Some are even higher than where they were in late February before everything started to fall apart. The Rift anticline play is a very good story. I've written about it. I've talked about it in past Discovery Watch episodes. It's in essence a potential gold rush 2 clone, perhaps even bigger, to the southeast of the Gold Rush 1 deposit, where 10 million ounces of 10 gram per ton or so are being put into production as an underground mine by Barrick. Now, this project emerged after New Legacy had spent, $20 million over the past few years exploring the oxide gold mineralization in the Iceberg area, and the grade was never really good. They would get snippets of higher grade a bit to the west, but eventually Albert Matter got fed up and recruited a whole bunch of ex-Barrick people, people like Ed Cope, Mark Bradley, Charles Weekly, and they did a deep dive on the $20 million worth of information and came up with this hypothesis called the Rift anticline, which is this area to the west covered by young, barren basalt volcanics that have no chance of having any mineralization, and no drill holes had ever been done. And the sort of the crude way that it's been put is that the Iceberg zone that New Legacy has been exploring for the past few years is basically a fart from a big gold constipation to the west under these barren cover rocks. And the structural context that the ex-Barrick guys put together is absolutely fascinating. It's an anticlinal structure. They've done CSAMT mapping of the geophysical data to the actual geological data to the east, and they believe that there is a substantial 2 to 4 kilometers of strike of the same sort of sponge-type geological setting that hosts the Gold Rush deposit. But they ran out of opportunities to drill, so they have to do this plan of operations. But a week ago, Albert Matter managed to get Quentin Henney to take also a close look at this. And Quentin came back and said, this is fantastic what you guys have put together. This is a very, very compelling target. And so Albert persuaded him to join the advisory board, and that helped the stock tick up a bit. And several weeks earlier, in late April, a royalty company called Metalla Royalty and Streaming paid $4 million US for a 1.5% royalty on the Red Hill project of New Legacy and a 0.5% royalty on the Zeke property to the northwest. And the Zeke property, it sits between the Gold Rush property. It's owned by Barrick, but it covers the basin area where the bedrock is quite deep, and it's not clear that anybody will ever bother to look hard at that until maybe 20 years from now when the Gold Rush deposit is depleted. But this royalty is owned by the Idaho Resources Corp, which is the estate of Bill Wilson, who has royalties on all this Cortez Hills stuff. And he passed away recently, and so the estate decided to sell half of the 3% royalty they have on Red Hill to Metalla. Now, that works out to about $3 million US for a project on which any mineralization that's found is too low grade to be worth anything. It's basically paid for this rift anticline play, which if they actually were to deliver a clone of Gold Rush in that area, that would be worth $2 billion. And such a royalty would be on a 10% discounted basis would be worth, 1% would be worth about $40 to $50 million. So they've paid a tenth of what this could potentially be worth. But the market also saw this as an endorsement of the sort of story that New Legacy has put together. So all of this, with of course Clinton Henney's help, he has a huge following. Albert decided to do a 75 million unit financing at 7.5 cents, the same price as the October one. This has a half warrant, good for only 18 months at 12.5 cents, and it has an acceleration clause. Anybody who wants to do a clip and flip on that one when it comes free trading, it will be unwise to do so, because this type of play does not readily deliver a barn burner intersection on the first try. It's a large target, and Carlin type systems are complex, and it may take a while to really remap all the geophysics to the actual stratigraphy. So Albert, decided to take the dilution bullet and raise this $5 million, because although he's a huge Trump fan, he's also a very, very smart man. And he sent me a photo of himself with his mask on and this new oak staff that he has procured for himself as his new social distancing enforcement. And you can see in the background of this photo, and he's going to let me post it on my website for everybody to see, he's got the huge stack of toilet paper stored up. And what Albert's thinking is, if we sit with a couple million or so that we have left and start drilling in October, if we get this permit, there's a good chance that COVID-19 will make a rebound. I mean, we're seeing it now in the southern hemisphere where, it is following a seasonal trajectory. While it's dying down here right now in the northern hemisphere, it's starting to accelerate in places like Brazil. And he did not want to be in a position of having to try and raise money when the markets, the V-shaped recovery is collapsing into another major leg down. We're in the type of market where speculative appetite is increasing. Part of that is related to the, gold uptrend. Gold has done very nicely since tracking downwards, the general market retreat in March. But there's also an interest in pure speculation, and this is making discovery plays with very high reward potential, such as the rift anticline, where the geological context has been well articulated, of great interest to the market. And he wants to, if he gets this permit in time to start a fall drill program, he wants to be able to keep drilling and not to have to try and raise money, because who knows what the hell is going to be going on in the markets and with this COVID-19 situation come September, October.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with John Kaiser. John, Taiga Gold jumped this week after SSR reported an update on the Fisher JV in northern Saskatchewan. Was the news good?
The news was positive in that in a number of zones, high-grade gold has been intersected. The intervals are not very thick, and typically less than 2 meters and 70 to 90% true width. But SSR is starting to put together how the mineralization in this area south of the CD Santoy mine hangs together. They've completed about 9,400 meters, and these are only partial results. In total, they've spent 31,000 drilled 31,000 meters and 79 holes and spent $10 million. And the market's thinking, okay, finally, they're going to have to do something. Now, the odd thing is, they only needed to spend $4 million to vest for 60%. And once they deliver vesting notice, they have 1 year to pay $3 million cash to Taiga Gold, which takes them to 80%. But in that 1 year window, they could say, we're going to do a 60-40 JV right now, and we're going to do a huge program, and you, Tiger, are going to have to pony up 40% of our costs, and then we're going to keep doing stuff that doesn't necessarily help you promote your stock and raise money, only to be then diluted down to 20% with a $3 million payment. And this is a bit of a flaw in this agreement, but it's been remarkable that SSR has spent $10 million and still has more to spend from this year's $5 million program. Now, the ability to spend money may be compromised by the COVID-19 situation. And it could be that this year SSR can't spend as much money as it would like, especially if it does this 60-40 thing. And the market is a little worried because last week SSR and Kaiser announced a merger of equals where SSR will issue about a third of a share for Kaiser, which owns the copper gold mine in Turkey. This makes the new company a bigger gold producer. SSR used to be called Silver Standard and was known as a silver play, but it's being morphed into more of a gold producer. But what's a little worrisome is that Paul Benson, the CEO of SSR, who has been a key proponent of this Fisher JV, he will not be CEO. The CEO will be Rod Antal from Kaiser, the CEO there, and only Michael Anglin, who's the chairman of SSR, will remain as chairman of the new company. So one thing we have to wait and see is what the new CEO, when this merger is done, if he will rethink the strategy that Paul Benson was pursuing with regard to the Fisher JV. Now, the market's sensing that they'll probably want to just clean this up sooner than later. And so the stock has floated up into the sort of mid-20s area. That has also helped out Eagle Plains, from which Taiga was spun out and still owns 13 million shares. And it's also drifted up from its 10-cent level where there seemed to be an infinite amount of paper for sale, and it's now 15 cents. But that has probably more to do with the upcoming drill program in June on the Vulcan target, which we talked about a few weeks ago on Discovery Watch. Last week, I did an outcome visualization for what if they found something as the same grade as Sullivan, but a third of the tonnage, and used the underground mining cost structure that Arizona Mining did for Hermosa Taylor project, which South 32 bought for $2.1 billion cash in 2018. And I was quite stunned even at today's depressed zinc and lead prices, what this would be worth. If you could suddenly overnight confirm the existence of a Sullivan clone, one-third the size, that would be worth $2.2 billion Canadian. And if you assume no further dilution, that would translate into $20 for Eagle Plain. Now, obviously, that can't happen right now because it's still just a conceptual target, and they're drilling a 700-meter hole that's only going to cost them a couple $100,000, and its main purpose is to provide geological confirmation for their view that this corridor is essentially untested for Sullivan-type deposits because past exploration appears to have misplaced the contact between the lower and middle Aldridge formations within the stratigraphy too far to the east. And so all past drilling would have overshot the potential lead, zinc, silver style SEDEX systems that are present in this area. So they're hoping that this geophysical target that they're testing, that they get lucky with this one shot. Probably not going to happen, but it's the kind of hole where it is the geological eggheads where when they interpret, what does this all mean? Do we have a live play? Is it interesting enough for Eagle Plains to keep it 100%? Or is it something that might attract a major such as Teck to give it a serious crack? So Taiga Gold up because they are getting better handle on where the high-grade gold mineralization is, and Eagle Plains tracking higher because there's a high-risk, high-reward drill program about to start in June.
We'll have more with John Kaiser right after this.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome back. We're chatting with John Kaiser. John, Zephyr Minerals has also nearly doubled in recent weeks. What's the cause of that?
Zephyr Minerals is one of my favorites. I followed it for several years, and I became particularly interested in it last year when the company unveiled its El Tomo target, which is the middle part of the property. And they have put together a very compelling case, or geological case, that this hosts a Broken Hill type system. And the major breakthrough was in last fall when they completed a geophysical survey. And this shows that at around 300 meter depth, the magnetic anomaly blossoms. It's much thicker and bigger than near surface, where they intersected narrow zinc, lead, silver mineralization back in the 80s. This was U.S. Borax, now owned by Rio Tinto, which looked at it back then. I recommend that Discovery Watch listeners go to my homepage, click on the Discovery Watch link, and scroll down to the Zephyr section and listen to the comments or episodes that I've done just to get back on, because there's a lot of very fascinating stuff to how this story evolved. And one more piece of the puzzle came into play several weeks ago when the company announced that the silver in the lead mineralization is carried by a special sulfosalt mineral called argentotetrahedrite, which is a subspecies of the Freibergite, which holds all the silver in the Cannington and Broken Hill deposits in Australia. And while this doesn't mean that there's going to be a lot of this, much higher silver grade. I mean, Cannington is a 500 gram per ton silver deposit. It's actually a silver deposit with a zinc-lead byproduct credit in its original 45 million ton form. But it adds to the whole list of check boxes for why what they have there is the edge of a significant Broken Hill system. And it was the realization that this thing is becoming serious that helped the stock flutter up. They think they will be able to start drilling on July 6th. They need one more piece of paper to have the permit. It's called a notice of intent, which is basically putting up a bond for cleaning up in case they flake out and just walk away after missing. So they have to put up a bond, and the only holdup is the regulators figuring out what the amount of the bond should be. Although travel is still a bit of a headache between the United States and Canada, they have got everything lined up, contractors and so on, to go in there and start drilling July 6th. It's critical that they get this drill permit, because the window for drilling in this El Plomo area is July 1st to October 30th, because that is the period when the bighorn sheep, for whom the steep terrain is their habitat, are not going to be bothered by the noise that a drilling rig would make. So they got to get this going, and they're going to drill a 500, 600 meter deep hole. They've got two distinct targets. Each one has a potential tonnage footprint of 50 to 100 million tons of massive sulfide. The key here is the pyrrhotite, which is magnetic. It's what a original SEDEX system, the iron sulfides, the pyrite, and that get converted into a pyrrhotite by the process that creates a Broken Hill type system, which is basically taking a flattish pancake created by a smoker system on the sea floor and folding it up and squeezing it so that the sulfides end up remobilized and transformed to some degree. Zinc, of course, is always going to be sphalerite as a sulfide and lead as galena. But this process enriches these systems, and it's the idea that you get this thickening so that you get very broad intervals rather than thinner intervals like you do in these laterally extensive SEDEX systems in places like the Northwest Territories. This is the exciting potential. And I ran an outcome visualization of, if you found a Cannington today, what would it be worth? And it's quite staggering. Such a deposit would be worth $6.5 billion Canadian, and that's based on 45 million tons of 4.8% zinc, 11.9% lead, and 520 gram per ton silver. And again, like I've done with Eagle Plains Vulcan situation, I've run this imaginary visualization on the basis of a 9,000 ton per day underground mine with the cost structure that Arizona Mining came up with for the Hermosa Taylor project, which, by the way, right now it's gone from 90 million tons to 155 million tons. South 32 hopes to have a pre-feasibility study done by the end of this year. But this type of play, if you do the strict assumption that no more dilution, that would translate into an $88 stock price for Zephyr, and it's like sitting there 30 to 40 cents. And in addition to this extra silver piece of the puzzle dropping into place, the market's starting to appreciate the staggering upside if the geological context that the company has put together is actually confirmed by a discovery hole. And this play is different from the Eagle Plains Vulcan play, which is more of a geological test. They've got $2 million raised. They've got a 4-month window to drill the hell out of this. There's no guarantee that the geophysics maps exactly to mineralization. It's also possible that it maps only to pyrrhotite, and that the the sphalerite and the galena is somewhere else in the system. But it's the kind of play where one drill hole could tell you, oh my gosh, we've got it. It's like when they drilled that hole into the ovoid of Boise's Bay and Diamond Fields, and they had those 100 meters of 4% nickel and 3% copper in massive sulfides in a magmatic segregation type context. You just knew, you could instantly do the math as to what the tonnage was. And because of the nature of this type of system, you also knew that the grade was not going to vary horribly, like in some sort of fluid-driven system. So the stock is up because of this, and we'll have to wait and see how the private placement of 10 million units done at 21 cents in February. It comes free trading in late June, so just before any drilling starts. Once drilling is underway, they figure if there's no glitches, the first hole could sort of hit the heart of the G89 anomaly within about 5 to 7 days. And obviously, this type of system visually, it is very apparent what you have. They will not have any idea of the silver content, because the remarkable thing about the silver news that they put out when Paul Spry, the Broken Hill expert, looked at this in 2019, he really couldn't see any silver minerals, so he figured it was mixed in with the galena. But his master's student is doing or one of his students is doing a master's thesis on this Green Mountain area, so he was able to book an appointment to have the University of Iowa's electron probe used to take a look at that sort of half-meter interval that ran 160 grams or so silver that was intersected way back in the 80s. And that appointment finally happened in March, and he was rather surprised to see that this argento tetrahedrite was where the silver was hiding, not somewhere in the lead grain structure, because you couldn't see that. So just looking at the galena mineralization is not going to tell you anything about the silver. And so assays would come 4 to 6 weeks. So if we get this, great visual intersection in early July, assuming drilling starts, it will still be 4 to 6 weeks before we have any assays telling us what this is all about. But this one could end up being one of the an absolutely spectacular exploration play if it delivers a world-class Cannington equivalent clone. And this is what this market needs. And with 74 million shares fully diluted and enough money in the Treasury to do so, and warrants that would be accelerated and exercisable to keep drilling going. As for the fact that drilling would have to stop October 30th, one of the things that's interesting is that to the north, the mountains end, and there's this flat area. It's got a private owner. It's quite dry, and it's about 6 kilometers from Highway 50 and the Union Pacific Railway. And it's only used for cattle ranching, and they could drive a decline from that area to access the bottom of whatever system they think is present at El Plomo, and that would also be the location for a milling processing facility. So infrastructurally, it's great. On top of the property itself, forget it. You're never going to build a mining facility or even a shaft or anything at the top, because this is bighorn sheep habitat. But it all can be easily accessed from the north. So this starts to turn into a Cannington scale discovery with a significant silver component. Wow, that's going to be a lot of fun.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been speaking with John Kaiser, his website, kaiserresearch.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on Discovery Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at howstreet.com. Discovery Watch is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.